What is up, Code Geass fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Happy 2021 to everybody. We finally made it to the new year. And to start off 2021, I am here with a very special guest. Now, she is an actress who is best known to fans as Carmen Stadfeld in the Code Geass series, but she's also played across in series such as Lucky Star, Monster, Fate Stay Night, Rose and Maiden, K-On!, Bleach, Fate Zero, and so much more. Please welcome the amazing Karen Strassman.
Hello, that's so kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Wonderful
indeed.
welcome.
That's absolutely no problem at all, Karen. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm just so grateful these days. Just so grateful for all the good things within the midst of the craziness.
Absolutely. That's definitely true. Which leads into my first question. Obviously, during this time with what's been happening with the pandemic since last year, how have you been keeping things up, especially on the acting side of things?
It has been a surprisingly busy year for me, and I had no idea when all of this hit that any of this would be possible. I ended up building a studio in one of my closets, as most busy working voiceover artists kind of have had to do that during this time. We've all sort of either built studios in our backyards, in our garages, and many of us have just converted our closets into studios. And that's what I did. And so I've been recording state-of-the-art games, huge anime, big cartoons, commercials, and all sorts of things from my closet all year.
Fantastic.
And I've also been, I'm an acting coach and a voiceover coach and a dialect coach. So I've been coaching all my clients over Skype, and I've been coaching a lot of group Zoom classes. And I used to have a waiting list. Well, I have a waiting list again. I opened up the waiting list and then it flooded. So I have many people who want to work with me now as a coach. So that's happening. And then on top of that, as you know, I also do a lot of on-camera work. And I booked a recurring role in a major TV series that's coming out on FX later this year.
Fantastic.
A really cool show and a really cool role in that show that I can't name or talk about, but I'm very excited about it. So I've also been taking COVID tests, and I've been on set a lot as well, shooting. So it's been such an unexpectedly busy and rich and cool time, and I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic in that regard. And especially with obviously what's been happening during this time is especially trying to keep as safe as possible and keeping the testing up as possible, especially as you were talking about, with not just being a voice actress, but also doing the on-camera work as well, where safety is you're physically there on set. So you have to keep the safety up and maintain the guidelines as much as possible during this time.
Yeah, it used to be, in normal times when you're on a TV set, shooting film or TV, right before they shoot, they, turn the camera on and the sound on and they say action. So they usually say, and rolling, speed, and action. And now they say, rolling, speed, masks off, and action. And then when they cut, they say, cut, masks on. So we all have our masks on until the very last second. And then there are people on set, this is very funny, in tennis matches, how they're ball boys or girls or people who run across the tennis court and pick up the balls in between. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
in tennis. Well, they have mask runners, and these mask runners have these Ziploc bags, and when they say action and take off your masks, and all the mask runners will run on set and hold the plastic bag in front of the actors, and the actors will put their mask in the plastic bag, and the mask runners will zip up the Ziploc baggie and run off to the other side of the set. And then when they call cut, all the mask runners run back and open up their Ziploc baggie, and we reach in and pick up our masks and put them on. So it's very, very well organized.
It's very much like a tennis match just happening right there. That's so fantastic. Now let's get started with talking about that sounds fantastic. Now, talking about the very beginning of your career, how did you get started in acting?
It was something that I was drawn to as early as I can remember. I just loved it. I was not in my family. There was absolutely no rhyme or reason for it. But since I was a kid, as far back as kindergarten, I was in every school play that I could get into. And then when I was when I was 12 or 13 or 14, I was in a beautiful production of The Miracle Worker, and I played Helen Keller as a little girl in a really moving play by William Gibson, where it tells the story of how Helen Keller starts, when she was a little girl. Helen Keller was a blind and deaf girl who grew up to go to Harvard and become a genius, and she's celebrated and respected all over the world now. Died many years ago. But when she was a little girl, she didn't know that language existed, and she had lived like a wild animal. And her parents wanted to get a nanny to tame her so she wouldn't be a wild animal anymore. And that nanny saved her life and helped her realize that language and communication exists. And like I said, she went on to become a brilliant student at Harvard and very famous and very inspiring across the world. So I played this character on stage, and I got rave reviews for it, and I just fell forever in love with acting at that time. I loved the idea of being able to jump into somebody else's, some other human experience and some other human soul, and transport an audience through transporting myself into the human experience, and make people cry and laugh and all those things. So that's how my love of acting started. And then I wanted to go to Juilliard when I graduated, but I didn't think I was good enough. There are people who had told me that I wasn't pretty enough to be an actress, and that I wasn't ugly enough to be a character actor. So I didn't know anybody who'd ever done it. And I thought, well, maybe I just am not good enough or pretty enough, or I can't, even though I'd won all the acting awards in high school. So instead I went off to study French in France, in Paris, and study psychology and do theater on the side. And while I was there, I got an apprenticeship when I was 19 years old to be a dialect coach and coach French actors to act in English for the camera, because there were a lot of co-productions coming through France. So it was a fluke. I was really good at it, and I got hired full-time at the age of 19 to be the main dialect coach for this big studio. And they were sending me to famous actors' homes to coach them for their movies, and they were sending me on set to coach on set. And when I was on set, somebody said, "Oh, little Karen, she is so cute, we will give her a role." So I got a role in a French TV series, and then I got an agent, and then I started doing voiceover in France. And I started, I was an Anglophone voice actor over there, because there was many, many cartoons that came through town, and they sold better if they recorded the original version in English. So they sold better internationally. So I started doing, at the age of 20, tons and tons of voiceover, animation, anime, dubbing films, video games. And so my career sort of actually started when I was 19, 20 years old and living in France. And I worked there for, about 16 years as a professional actress, very successful and grateful and happy. And then I had a yearning to move to Hollywood and do more films in English and, work in America, work in my own mother tongue again, even though I was fluent in French. And then I moved here, and things just sort of really opened up here.
Fantastic.
So I've just sort of been taking risks and diving in my whole life, even though people told me I wasn't pretty enough or good enough or anything like that. So that's kind of cool.
That's fantastic. And you absolutely proved them wrong. You absolutely proved them wrong, because look at where you are now, which is just fantastic. Now, speaking about a fair bit with the voiceover work you've done, now, as many people will know, that you've worked across a variety of anime series, and anime has been mostly been based on manga. Have you ever read the manga for any anime series you worked on, or ever became familiar or heard of a project you've worked on before you started working on that series?
It depends on the series, actually. There are quite a few that I was aware of beforehand, and I would, do a little research on it. And there are many that my education was from being in it, or once I was in it, I became curious about the manga, and I would read them a little bit. But often I was just cast, and then I got to know more about the project after being cast in it.
Right. That's fantastic. And what was like your first voiceover role?
First voiceover role. My first voiceover role was I was recording. This is going to date me. I was recording cassettes, those little plastic things, for a magazine in France called Hi Kids that taught French children to read and speak English. And it had a cassette tape that went along with it. And so I was doing all kinds of voices for those cassette tapes in that magazine. And then my second voiceover role, I believe, was, and this was when I was 19 or 20, they were doing a film about Saint Bernadette. It was a beautiful artistic film by a very well-known and respected director in France named Jean Delannoy. And he'd made this beautiful artistic film about the Saint Bernadette. And they were looking for just the right voice to match Saint Bernadette, and I had never done dubbing or anything like that before, and they just hadn't been able to find the right voice. So somebody was a friend of a friend who thought, Karen, you should go try out for this, because your voice might be okay, and they're having a really hard time finding someone. And I did, and the director fell in love with my voice and said it was exactly what he was looking for. It had the qualities that he was looking for the character, and hired me for that. And I ended up being very, very good at it. That was very unexpected for me. And people found out about me all over town in Paris, and just little by little started hiring me a lot. And that's actually how I gained my education and experience as a voiceover actress.
Fantastic.
By doing that.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And it's really great that, obviously going back to your origins, where your acting career started up in France, had led you to voiceover work, but also the work that you have today because of that experience. And I think that's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Now, talking about some of your best-known roles. Now, one of your best-known roles was Callan, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name here, Callan Statfield, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. In the Code Geass series. What was it like working on that series?
Well, a funny thing, since you're asking about the pronunciation, is, and this is a little trivia thing, in the Japanese version of that anime, her name is actually Karen. Karen.
Oh, wow.
Karen. And so her name is literally Karen Stadtfeld in the Japanese version. But because of pronunciations, they decided they wanted the pronunciation to sound like the Japanese pronunciation. So they ended up calling her Colin, which is just a fun trivia story that people might not know. It was really a delight to do that series. And one of the reasons is the director, Kevin Seymour, who passed a bunch of years ago and is sorely missed by the voiceover community. He was brilliant, and he was a wonderful director, and he decided that the cast members should not have the right to know what is going to happen next for their characters. So instead of sort of anticipating what was going to happen, none of us knew what was going to happen with our characters. And so we were literally, every single moment, in the present moment, the feelings and the action of our characters, which was just very different from other shows where I would know, oh, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. So it was really fun to record for that reason, and also just because the anime itself is so brilliant and so good.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I think that's amazing how you said about like how that one person on working on the anime said that like you were not allowed to know about what was going to happen next with your character or with the story just in general. That reminds me of an interview that I did with Joshua Seth last year when he got advice from this one actor who said, don't read ahead, just be surprised. So he would walk into it having no idea what to expect for the character he was going to play or where the story was going to go ahead going forward, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. And I've since sort of tried to apply that in other acting jobs and literally keep myself in the present experience of that character instead of anticipating.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, another one of your best-known roles, which was my intro to your work, was Soifon and Momo from Bleach. What was it like working on Bleach?
Well, Bleach is just so iconic. So it was just, and because the series is so big, we got to spend so much time, recording our characters. So it wasn't like one of these short series that's over and you're done with. We kept going back for years and years, and I got to watch Soifon evolve and, see the beauty and the tragedy of Momo Hinomore, and you really got to be in the experience of the whole show evolving and experiencing your characters evolving a lot.
Absolutely. It was definitely an amazing series. I think one of the best action anime series I've seen in a very long time. It was just so fantastic. Not just in terms of the spectacle of the action and all that, and not just in terms of the performances, but each character getting their own sort of individual arc and looking into the backstory of not just the heroes, but also the villains as well, which is amazing. Yeah. And for me, especially at that time, because Bleach was one of the biggest anime and one of the longest running for what it was during its time, and was considered, I think, around that time, one of the top 3 popular anime during its time, next to, I believe it. I think it was one of the top 3 anime during its time, next to, I believe it was Naruto, and I think it was Dragon Ball at the time. But it was. It wouldn't surprise me that much because it was absolutely fantastic. And speaking about a little bit more with regards to Bleach, it was confirmed, I believe, just last year or the year before that by the creator that they are developing an anime adaptation of the final arc from the manga, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. How excited are you to know that there is more story to be told in... Yes, they are finally adapting the final arc from the manga. And I can tell by your reaction, you're just absolutely ecstatic to know that there's more story to be told in the Bleach universe. It's so fantastic. And with regards to the future of Bleach, is there anything that you personally want to explore in Bleach going forward in terms of spin-off series or in terms of like sequels or even like ideas for that?
I guess I'd say I'm just more curious about what the creators themselves have in store, in terms of what is going to be coming up with this new series. But one thing that I would love is I would love for Momo Hinomore to be resurrected and for her to come back and be more of a hero, because she was such a pure soul and such a beautiful soul, and it was so tragic, how she was died, what happened to her. I won't say for the people who don't know, but I cried. It broke my heart. So I'd like to see her resurrected and to be able to come back into her beautiful power. And for Soifone, I just love to see her have more opportunities to be even more badass.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. And I think and as you were speaking about, of course, with Momo, I don't think it was confirmed in the anime whether she was killed off. I think they kept that like pretty secretive, or they may kind of imply that she was still alive from all that. But I'm not going to spoil it out there for anyone for all the listeners out there who haven't seen it. If you be sure to get into Bleach, it's a fantastic series. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited that they're finally adapting the final arc from the manga. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And leave a like or a comment, guys. What is it you personally want to see in the final arc for this anime series, knowing that they're adapting the final arc from the manga? Because that would be so awesome. Now, looking across at some of your other roles that you've done, you've also played across in series such as Lucky Star, Monster,
Yes.
two of the Fate series, Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, Rosen Maiden, and K-On! What was it like working across those projects?
What was it like working with? Say that again.
What was it like working across those series?
Wow. Each one of them is so different. Ooh, sorry, I have a pot of tea on. There, it was whistling. They are all so different. I mean, Lucky Star Lucky Star was one of those series that none of us wanted to end because it was just so delightful. It was just so much fun, and I think I did. I literally cried when it was over because I didn't want it to end. So playful and just such a fan favorite because of all the inside jokes and everything. Monster, and I'm so glad you mentioned Monster because that is actually my favorite anime that I have ever done.
Wow.
And Monster, gosh, it's just so raw and unexpected. And Guillermo del Toro had originally bought the rights many years ago to do a live action movie of Monster, which I think would be absolutely incredible. I don't know whatever happened with that, but if it's very hard to get a hold of because they didn't when they released it, they didn't, for some reason weren't able to do a very good job of that. But if anybody can get a hold of the series Monster, it is just brilliant and like gut wrenching, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Fantastic.
I don't know. I know you named a few other series as well. I forgot what those were that you mentioned, but I'm happy to talk about any of them.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. That's just wonderful. So you also started in a couple of the Fate series, such as Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, but also played in K-On! And Rosen Maiden as well.
K-On! K-On! And Lucky Star I put in the same category because they were so delightful that we just didn't want them to end. And K-On! Is such a big fan favorite, and I really wish there were sequels to that because we had so much fun and it's so endearing and so delightful. And Sawako, with her she really got to evolve. Sometimes in anime you just play the same character and they don't really have a through line or they don't change. And Sawako, she really had such a storyline, and also her punk rock personality, which everybody loved. So that was just such a pleasure. And Rosen Maiden is one of my favorites as well. You're picking so many of my favorites. What I loved about Rosen Maiden was, my character, you could have thought that she was evil and bad because she seemed evil and bad, when in actuality she was just so deeply wounded. And you find out about those wounds if you watch the prequel, which was released after the main series. So that series is just very complex and beautiful and moving and disturbing in its complexity. And Fate Stay Night is just so much fun.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. And speaking about, of course, with live action, as you mentioned about, of course, with them, excuse me, with Guillermo del Toro, I think it was just had a bit of a brain snap there, but that's okay. So as you were mentioning about before, with them wanting to do a live action monster movie, there's also been live action films on the Bleach series. Did you ever get the chance to watch the live action Bleach film? And what's been your opinion on anime being adapted for live action?
I did not get to watch live action Bleach, and I'm very curious about it. Um, and that's all I know about that. I'd love to get a chance to watch it, and I haven't yet. Um, I think about anime being made into live action. I think as in most things, it just depends. It really comes down to if it's well done or not. You know, as with any project, you know, any project at all. It's just a question of it being really well done and well represented. You know, I mean, there's many cartoons or cartoon movies or animated movies that I've seen made into live action, and I just like the animation better. For example, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I will always love the original animation for that, and I won't be as excited about a live action version of it. But then there's some live actions for anime that just are really, really good. So I think it just depends on the project and the filmmakers and the quality of the project and all of those things.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely true in that regard. But also having the same, and I think it also helps to have the same creative people that have worked on those anime projects involved in the production of the live action project, just to keep a sense of continuity happening and to keep it as faithful to the original as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what they need to do. And that's what I've heard about with regards to series, for example, like One Piece, where they've got the creator for the manga involved in the live action TV show. I think they're still developing the One Piece series, but that's as far as what I know about it. So I'm really excited to see any of the series that you've done. And also, like for Bleach, when they start to develop sequels, just really go on into this and just really be respectful to material as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I really agree.
Absolutely. And let me know to my listeners in the comments below. Leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Karen Strassman make an appearance in the live-action Bleach sequels. That would just be so amazing.
I would love that.
That would be absolutely fantastic. Now, you've also starred in various video game projects, such as the Dead or Alive series as Helena Douglas, Sonic the Hedgehog as Rogue the Bat, but also played across in other video game projects like the Persona series, Mortal Kombat, and Detective Pikachu as Rose Milton. What was it like playing across those projects?
Oh, I love each and every one of those projects. Each and every one. Rouge the Bat is just... I just love playing her. I tend to really enjoy doing the sexy characters. It's fun, so much fun. And the fact that she keeps coming back in all the video games, so again, there gets to be some continuity with her, is just a delight. And the Sonic series is so good. It was always so much fun to get to play Melina and Katana in Mortal Kombat, and I just have wonderful memories of that. And I love. It's really fun to play badass characters. You know, it's exciting and fun.
Absolutely.
The Persona series is so popular with fans, and I love Aigis and Nanako so much. They're kind of both a part of me at this point. And again, it's just when there's a video game series or something like that you get to reprise your character. It makes it even more special, you know, to return to a character that you know and love. And I get so much, fans just really love both Nanako and Aigis, and I do too. And so it's such a delight to get to keep returning to play them.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's absolutely fantastic in that regard. And speaking about, of course, with a couple of the video game projects you've worked on, I've mentioned with Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu. Did you ever get to see the live-action Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog films?
No, I have not. I have not. And again, I look forward to being able to see them. Yeah, I'm very curious.
Absolutely. I think, in my honest opinion, and I know to many listeners out there, they will disagree with me on this, but I believe that Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog, those two films, in my opinion, broke the live-action video game film curse. They had finally delivered. They finally had given us the video game adaptations we've been waiting to see, and in going forward. And to all my listeners out there listening, because we've got sequels to both those films coming up, let me know in the comments below, guys, what do you want to see in the sequels to Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog? And leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Karen Strassman reprise her role as Rouge the Bat in the sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, or make a live-action appearance in either of those films. That would be amazing. That would just be absolutely fantastic.
It would be really fun.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, of course, with live-action projects, now we've had the announcement of several video game projects being announced for live-action, Mortal Kombat being one of them. I think they're releasing the film around this year. Is there another video game project that you've worked on that you want to see adapted for live-action as a film or a TV show?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, Persona is so popular. I would imagine people might really enjoy that. Let me think. I mean, Persona, I think, is a really good candidate for that because they really do have so many storylines that you could really do things with. So I think that would probably be my first vote.
Absolute. Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be really, really amazing. I think I would also really love to see them redo a live-action Dead or Alive film. I think I would really love to see them do something like that. That would be absolutely amazing. Because when people think, of course, like the fighting game series, obviously Mortal Kombat being the most notable one, but also Dead or Alive being the next notable. I'd love to see them redo like Dead or Alive as a film or even as a TV show. I think that would be absolutely fantastic.
Huh. Yeah, I think they just need to get a good storyline going for that.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely true. And if you wanted to do, and you mentioned about, of course, like how you spoke about with of course with K-On! And I think also with K-On!, of course, of the Fate Stay Zeros, as well as Code Geass, how you said you wanted to see more with those series. Is there another kind of anime that you've worked on that you want to see a revival made for?
Oh God, definitely Code Geass, definitely. Let me think. K-On! Definitely. Star definitely. Let me see what else I would love to see picked up. IGPLX would be fun. God, I'm trying to my brain freeze. Let me see what other series would be fun. I don't know. Are there any you can think of that I've done that might?
I think personally,
I don't always remember all my. I've done. I think on IMDb right now it has me down as having almost 600 credits, and those and a lot of non-union stuff isn't even on there. So I've done so many things that sometimes I forget the things that I do.
That's no problem at all. I think personally for me, the ones that you mentioned about, like with K-On! And Code Geass, I think that would be really awesome to see a revival of like them continuing those two shows. And also, I've been asking for a while to see whether they would do a revival of the Bleach series, considering where the anime had left off. And now that they finally announced that, it's just going to be absolutely amazing. So I think if they can manage to do a revival of Bleach, I think anything is possible, really.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That would be fantastic. And where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting in the long run?
right now, my most exciting goal is to be a series regular on a really poignant, exciting on-camera TV show. I find on-camera work so stimulating and so visceral, and I just love being on set with other actors and other creatives, and that's one of my really favorite things. So I'd say that, and on a series regular role on a TV series, but I look forward to many more, wonderful video games and tons of, anime and some really beautiful, fun animation as well. I really love all of it. I'm lucky to get to do all of it.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And without getting into any spoilers, what's next for Karen Strassman for the fans to know about?
Let's see. I again have this recurring role in a very big FX TV series, and I can't say what it is, but I'll be able to announce it on social media sometime this year. My Instagram is at Karen Strassman. My Twitter is at Karen Strassman, and I have a Karen Strassman fan page on Facebook, and I try and kind of keep people abreast of what I'm doing there. And then there's a whole bunch of video games I've done recently that I can't talk about either. I just was in the Spider-Man animated movie. I did a whole bunch of smaller roles in that, which was really delightful. And I have a feature film that will be coming out probably sometime this year. It's called The Onania Club, and it's going to be a very, very controversial film by Tom Six, the maker of The Human Centipede.
Oh, wow.
So those things are coming up. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can actually that I'm allowed to talk about. We sign so many NDAs these days. Let me see. I think people, if you haven't played Resident Evil 2 Remake, you can see me as Annette Birkin, the scientist, and that almost won Video Game of the Year last year. It was very, very popular. So people will probably really enjoy that. They can see me in the new release of World of Warcraft Shadowlands. I reprise Chromie, the time-traveling dwarf. They can see me in Dragon's Dogma as Soleil's mother. If they play Wasteland 3, I play a number of characters in that, and they'll recognize my voice. If you're watching the series Homecoming, you can see me in that. In the video game Blade and Soul Revolution, that just came out. You can see me in that. You can see me in the beautiful Netflix series Ghost in the Shell. I play a very, very moving character in one of the very last episodes. You can hear me in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And as Annette Birkin again in Resident Evil Resistance. I play Fiora in the video game Legends of Runeterra. And there's a very, very cool project out called Thumb Wars. And I'm in Thumb Wars, The Thighs of Sky Skipper. And if you guys want to see something really super cool, all the characters are thumbs. And I've lent my voice to a few of those characters. So those are everything that has just recently come out. If people are watching the TV show Creep Show, you can see me as the horrible Leslie Dowd who gets killed in a horrible, terrifying way. You can play me in the Shantae video games as the character Sky. And a bunch of Fire Emblem stuff has recently come out too. So there's a list of some things that I can talk about.
That's absolutely fantastic. No, that's absolutely amazing, and definitely looking forward to seeing those projects as well. That's absolutely fantastic. Final question: what do you think Carlene would say if she was in Australia?
Oh, Colin from Code Geass?
Yes.
Wow. She would say, I'm in love with Zero. He's my mate.
That's absolutely fantastic. No, that's absolutely wonderful. That's fantastic. Karen Strassman, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor.
It's my pleasure. It's a real delight to talk with you.
Absolutely. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans out there in Australia and in the world?
Well, first of all, just you guys, thank you so much for your support and your enthusiasm. We record all these things pretty much alone with a director and an engineer. And when the projects go out into the world and people enjoy them so much, and I get so much generous positive feedback, it's just so magical. And then the other thing that I would just encourage people to do is follow your dreams. I think a lot of us sometimes have dreams and people discourage us from them, or we're afraid, or we don't know how we're going to do it. And I think that our lives are a little bit like a video game in that way. I think, you up level, you have a challenge that you have to pass through, and then you can up level to the next challenge, and then you have the next challenge. So don't let challenges get in the way of following your dreams. Don't let naysayers get in the way of following your dreams. I think we all have an inner voice that sometimes we don't trust because we're so busy listening to the outside world. Oh no, that's good, that's bad, I can't do that. And I think that when we really listen to those quiet voices in our heart, I know it's a cliche, but I really find it to be true. Trust your intuition, trust yourself, trust your creative impulses, take risks, trust your heart, and be kind, because we never know what anybody else is going through.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. That is absolutely wonderful. And thank you very much for that. That's just absolutely fantastic. That is just
my pleasure.
That is just wonderful. Well, guys, if you'd like to find out more about Karen Strassman, you can check out the links which I'll put to in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe down below to HannaTalk. Check out the links below, comment below, like, subscribe, click that bell. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Simon and Karen Strassman signing off. Happy New Year, everybody.